we will kick things off with A Plague Tale. In an era where live service and multiplayer games seem to dominate, finding high-quality single-player experiences can be rare. Yet, there are still dedicated developers who create truly exceptional single-player games. The developers behind A Plague Tale demonstrate their genuine passion for this IP. This third-person adventure game places a strong emphasis on storytelling, delivering everything you could want from a single-player experience. I was blown away by the detail in the environments, the way the light shines through trees, or how the plague-ridden cities look so grim and oppressive. It all fits perfectly with the story's tone. There are moments where you just have to stop and take it all in because it's that beautiful. As for combat, the choice is entirely yours. You can charge in aggressively or opt for a stealthy approach. The path you take through each area is just as flexible. Whether you eliminate every enemy or let most of them live, the decisions are all in your hands. It's not this massive, open-world blockbuster title, but it has all the polish you'd want from a high-quality game. The scale is more focused, and the story is really tight, which honestly works in its favor. You're getting a well-crafted experience without all the bloat you might find in bigger games. I wholeheartedly recommend Remedy's Control. This game exudes style and a sense of the otherworldly. Control is a third-person action-adventure game that stands out for its unique blend of supernatural elements and intriguing gameplay mechanics. The gameplay is a mix of exploration, puzzle-solving, and combat, with a heavy emphasis on using telekinetic powers. The game's setting, the oldest house, is a labyrinthine skyscraper with a brutalist architecture. Its crisp, detailed textures and RTX-powered lighting create a visually captivating experience. Beyond its realistic aesthetics, Control also boasts a robust physics system to enhance gameplay. While it's not without its flaws, particularly in terms of technical performance and narrative complexity, it's a game that offers a lot of value for those who enjoy immersive single-player experiences. Playing Firewatch was like taking a slow, calming breath of fresh air. While it doesn't rush, it draws you in with its stunning landscapes and incredibly well-written characters. Developed on a modest budget by indie studio Campo Santo, the game boasts a level of polish and depth that you don't often see in smaller titles. I quickly became absorbed in the mystery and in the evolving relationship between Henry and Delilah. By the time it ended, it didn't feel like I had simply played a game. It felt like I had lived an experience. If you're into narrative-driven games that focus on storytelling and atmosphere rather than fast-paced action, Firewatch is an excellent pick. It's not without its flaws, but the emotional depth it offers makes it more than worth the time. While it might not be traditionally replayable, the experience lingers with you long after the credits roll. Darkwood stands in a league of its own. No other top-down game captures the sheer tension and dread it brings. Set in a mysterious, ever-changing forest, the game focuses heavily on survival, exploration, and resource management. The top-down perspective, combined with the dark, gritty visuals, creates a sense of dread and unease. The use of shadows and limited lighting contributes to the atmosphere, making every corner of the map feel ominous and unsettling. The art style might not be for everyone, but it effectively enhances the game's eerie vibe. It has a strong artistic vision and a deep, immersive experience, but it doesn't have the same level of budget or marketing as larger games. Even among high-budget 3D survival horror titles, very few manage to evoke the same mix of creeping unease, pulse-pounding fear, and eerie beauty that Darkwood masterfully achieves. Remnant from the Ashes is a compelling hybrid, blending the mechanics of a traditional third-person shooter RPG like The Division with the challenging elements of Dark Souls. This blend of genres works surprisingly well, borrowing many familiar elements from Souls games, such as invincibility frame, replenishable healing items, shortcut-filled maps, bonfire-like checkpoints, material-based gear upgrades, and special boss items. Plus, there are plenty of hidden areas with unique loot or puzzles. One thing I really liked is how the world is procedurally generated. But it's not completely random, but the layouts of dungeons and the bosses you encounter change each time you play. However, the Souls-like influence isn't overwhelming, as traditional RPG FPS mechanics play a big role too. The environments are detailed enough to feel lived in, like the cities overrun by nature, dark caves, and alien-looking landscapes. I wouldn't say the graphics are jaw-dropping, but they do a great job of immersing you in this bleak, dangerous world. The start of the game can feel incredibly harsh, with frequent deaths and a sense of making no progress as you lose all your items. It's got that classic dungeon crawl vibe where you're exploring procedurally generated dungeons, but the combat system is where it stands out. Instead of traditional attacks, you're using a mix of melee weapons and spells in a more interactive way. It's a bit like a first-person action RPG where precision and timing are key. The enemies can be pretty challenging, so you'll need to get used to the combat system and learn how to dodge and attack effectively. Once you get a handle on the basics, like blocking, parrying, and managing your items effectively, game becomes much more enjoyable. Created by a small team of dedicated developers from around the globe, this game stands out as the ultimate first-person slasher and possibly the most intense medieval combat experience ever made. It combines skill-based combat with chaotic battlefields where the ground is strewn with the bodies of the fallen. It's a first-person game where you're swinging swords, axes, and other weapons in battles that can involve dozens of players. The combat system is surprisingly deep, with a focus on timing, positioning, and precise strikes. You've got a range of weapons and fighting styles to master, and the game's manual aiming and directional attacks make every fight feel dynamic and skillful. As a huge fan of its spiritual predecessor, Chivalry, with countless hours invested, I can say without a doubt that this game surpasses it in every way. For a game that stands firmly on its own, it's surprising how often Chernobylite gets compared to Stalker. Some negative reviews criticize it for not being a AAA game, but Chernobylite is an indie mid-budget title with big ambitions, despite having the resources of a massive production. It's not flawless, but what it does exceptionally well. The focus is on delivering a richly detailed world, a solid story, and a well-designed survival system. It's clear the game isn't trying to compete with blockbuster titles. It's more intimate and focused, which really works in its favor. It's a blend of survival, exploration, and RPG mechanics. Whether it's choosing which objectives to take on or how to allocate your supplies, it's all about making careful decisions that ripple through the story. It's not overwhelming, though. It's more of a balance between survival and progression, which keeps things moving without feeling like a grind. Dishonored is one of those rare games that's truly unforgettable, excelling in nearly every area. Its sequel, Dishonored 2, picks up directly from the first, but adds a significant twist. You now have the option to play as either Emily or Corvo, both armed with their own unique set of supernatural abilities. The story's ending hinges on how much chaos your playstyle creates, but otherwise, the core mechanics remain familiar, making it relatively accessible for returning players. What really stands out, though, is the intricate level design, offering multiple paths for you to explore and traverse. The visual quality is so striking that you could pause the game at any moment, and the screen would look like a meticulously crafted painting. I found myself easily lost in the world, experimenting with different strategies and approaches for each mission. The level design is exceptionally smart and layered, making every run feel fresh. Whether pulling off a flawless stealth mission or creatively chaining together abilities, the satisfaction is immense. This is a game where the more you experiment, the more rewarding it becomes, and that's what makes it so compelling. The Forgotten City was developed by just 3 people, with some outside help. Originally a Skyrim mod, it's been polished and transformed into a standalone game, and it's absolutely brilliant. While it has its flaws, the core experience shines with writing so exceptional that it easily rivals some of the biggest AAA productions. The Forgotten City is primarily a narrative-driven mystery game with a time loop mechanic. You're exploring this ancient Roman city where everyone's living under a strange curse. If one person sins, everyone dies. It's very much a thinking person's game. You're piecing together clues, solving moral dilemmas, and working through multiple potential outcomes. Not in the sense that you'll replay it over and over after finishing, but within the game itself, you're going through these loops, and each one can play out very differently depending on what you do. It's a great example of what a small, dedicated team can achieve when they focus on storytelling and world building over sheer spectacle. Stray is a delightful little game. It doesn't break new ground in the genre, nor does it focus on microtransactions or quick profits. Instead, it's a classic video game experience that aims to tell a touching story and let players explore a beautifully crafted world without the massive budget or marketing push of a AAA title. It's made by a smaller team, and it shows in the personal touch and attention to detail in the game. The focus on a unique premise, playing as a cat in a cyberpunk world, sets it apart from more conventional games, and the quality of its design and execution reflects a careful and creative approach. While the areas you explore aren't vast, there are several of them, each beautifully crafted with incredible attention to detail. Every corner hides something, a hint, a small secret, or a little detail waiting to be discovered. Mutant Year Zero: Road to Eden is a challenging hybrid game that blends real-time exploration with turn-based combat, similar to XCOM. While it partially succeeds in this mix, it ultimately leans more on its survival elements, losing some of the balance that could have made it truly unique. The game offers an intriguing concept and introducing fresh mechanics, but it doesn't always hit the mark. You control a group of mutants, each with unique abilities, as they explore a world devastated by some mysterious event. The exploration parts are pretty laid back. You roam around the environments in real time, scavenging for resources, sneaking past enemies, and uncovering bits of the story. The game feels well crafted, with detailed environments, solid mechanics, and a unique world, but it's clear the team focused on creating depth in its core systems rather than trying to be overly expansive. It's a niche game, but one that excels in what it sets out to do. Sunless Skies is every bit the worthy successor to Sunless Sea that I had hoped for, and more. In nearly every gameplay aspect, this game surpasses its predecessor. That said, it's not for everyone, especially if you're looking for something fast-paced or action-heavy, but if you're in the mood for a deep, atmospheric experience, this game is a gem. The experience is more akin to walking through the woods, soaking in the atmosphere, and occasionally pausing to read a chapter from a book. While combat exists, it's not the main focus. Battles feel like naval warfare in space, where you maneuver your locomotive, lining up shots while dodging incoming fire. Like Sunless Sea, it's all about slow-paced exploration, heavy reading, and grinding between moments of discovery. But Skies manages to do it even better. Electronic Arts does have some hidden gems. This game is a fun little adventure, even if it has a few shortcomings. Published by Electronic Arts, Lost in Random transports you into a magical world filled with lovable and quirky characters. The story kicks off with Even, a young girl on a quest to save her sister, Odd, in a world ruled by chance and dice. The entire kingdom is divided into 6 realms, each one representing a different number on a dice, and everything from people's fates to the rules of the world is governed by the roll of the dice. The game's charm isn't defined by technical standards, but by its artistic ones. Its art style feels like it's been lifted straight from a dark fairy tale or a stop-motion film. The somber color palette perfectly reflects the Queen's monopolistic grip on the world and the grim nature of Even's quest. Yet, the colorful personalities of the characters you encounter in the 6 realms bring a ray of sunshine to this dark world. This contrast is heightened by the outstanding voice actors who bring each NPC to life. There's a perfect mix of eerie and whimsical, showcasing the love and attention that went into making the world feel both alive and unique. Compared to many other so-called horror games I've played, this one offers a much deeper and longer story, which was a refreshing change of pace. The narrative keeps you hooked, constantly making you crave more as the story unravels. It's worth mentioning that Song of Horror isn't your typical horror game, as most people imagine it. Unlike most modern titles in the genre, which tend to focus on survival horror, Song of Horror leans heavily on puzzle solving. The story gradually reveals itself after each puzzle is completed. It's an episodic survival horror that centers around a malevolent force known as the Presence, and its chilling interactions with anyone unfortunate enough to encounter it. I loved how the game didn't rely on cheap jump scares, but instead built tension through sound, pacing, and the fear of losing my characters permanently. If you're into a more methodical, story-driven horror experience, this game definitely stands out. And now, let's talk about the bonus game, The Inquisitor. This game definitely isn't for everyone, as it explores an alternative form of Christianity, one centered on revenge rather than mercy and forgiveness. You step into the shoes of a former Inquisitor, unraveling a series of mysterious murders and supernatural events. The city you navigate is graphically stunning, but the character models, especially during dialogue scenes, leave much to be desired. Interaction during exploration feels somewhat limited, and the narrow streets often come across as eerily empty. There were a few technical hiccups during combat and filled with graphical glitches, but aside from these, the game is quite polished for what it sets out to achieve. I hope you found something new to try, or perhaps rediscovered a game you've been meaning to revisit. I couldn't cover all the amazing games out there, so if we missed any of your favorites, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated with all our gaming content. If you're still on the hunt for more recommendations, be sure to check out my other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.